Ryan here. I'm back, and I had just a quick little video idea that I wanted to put together. I have the When We Were Young festival lineups here, and I'm just going to rank them from worst to best. This festival started in 2017. I don't think people know that, but that is technically the first iteration of it. And then it has become a very popular thing in the, I guess, alternative punk community, emo community, in the past, I don't know, 4 years or whatever. I will admit to you though, I have never been to one of these festivals. I would like to go to one at some point. But there's just a couple things that haven't like really worked out for me. Like I can never get to line up with like my college schedule. I don't love music festivals, to be honest. I find them very daunting. And every time I've gone to one, I just get like tired after hour 6 or whatever, and I don't want to stay for the closing act, even if it's a band that I really like. So that's, I don't know, that's one thing. And then I don't love Las Vegas, which is where this festival is being held. Not a city I love going to be honest. It's not really my town. That being said, I will probably go to one of these at some point, maybe next year. I don't know. Vegas isn't like terribly far from where I live. It's a good drive, but still like incredibly reasonable for me to go to one of these and not have to like pay for a flight. So I'll go to one at some point, definitely. Just I just haven't gotten it to like work out yet. But that being said, regardless, I can still talk about this festival and its lineups and tell you whether or not I think they're good or they're bad. And I will start off by saying that I think pretty much all of these lineups have been good so far. Some better than others, but all of them I think are. If you're a fan of this music, all of them are like worth your time. So we'll just get started right away with 2017's lineup, which is probably the weakest lineup so far. It is marketed as an emo and punk festival, but what's different about this one is that Morrissey is the headliner, which like is not a part of that scene at all. So it's really interesting because like Morrissey's at the top of the poster, and then right under it is like Descendants and AFI. And I don't know. I think one of the good things about this festival is that they mix new artists and old artists together very well. If you just saw the title, you would assume it's only legacy bands, and they've done a pretty good job, all things considered, at including newer bands. I don't love the title of When We Were Young because like a lot of these bands are still like active and making good music, and it just kind of feels like, I don't know, some elder emo cringe that I can't get behind because I guess I'm just not from that generation, but don't love that. But this is a pretty good lineup. It's a lot smaller than the other ones, which is like understandable being their first, but they got like AFI, Agent Orange, Alkaline Trio, Balancing Composure, Joyce Manor, Turnstile, Taking Back Sunday. So a good mix of like new bands like Joyce Manor and Turnstile, who were like still pretty new in 2017, and then older bands. So yeah, it's a good lineup, all things considered. It's just these other ones have like are much higher, like astronomically higher. All right, then we got the 2022 lineup, which I think is the second best lineup. I remember when this was announced, and I was working at a record store at the time, and it was just like all we talked about that day pretty much was like how crazy it was that this festival was like a real thing, and we weren't sure if it was like actually real, like will this happen, will it fall apart, because like getting all these bands together seems like such a logistical nightmare. Like I would hate to be on the When We Were Young team and like trying to like work this out. But this is, I think what was really exciting about this was the My Chemical Romance headliner. I think that reunion had just barely happened at this point, so it was like pretty cool to see them like play something like this. But yeah, no, this is the most bands that have been at one of these When We Were Young festivals, and they've had a pretty good lineup for this one, like Bayside and Bring Me the Horizon was here, Dashboard Confessional, Avril Lavigne, Alkaline Trio, Mom Jeans was here. So like that's an example of like a newer band. Neck Deep, The Story So Far, those are newer bands, or they were at the time, I guess. And then like My Chem and Paramore. So it was like a pretty good lineup and was like really exciting when this got announced because like Warped Tour had been gone for a while. I mean, Warped Tour is like kind of back to some capacity now, but it's not the same. So it is like cool to see something like this happen. All right, and then the next one we're going to do is 2023's, which is probably the best it's been, I think. It's not as many bands as 2022, and that's okay. I do think this lineup is better, though. I think what's exciting about this was the Green Day Blink-182 headlining thing, because those bands are always like neck and neck in terms of like popularity, and they hadn't shared like a space like this I don't think since like the 2002 Pop Disaster tour. So it was like really cool to see this. And Blink was just coming off of the reunion tour and the release of One More Time, which like make of that album what you will. I really like it, but I know it's divisive. So it was like cool just to like see this band back in a way that felt more genuine than the Neighborhoods era. So that's cool. But there's huge bands that could have easily headlined this thing. You got The Offspring, you got Sum 41, New Found Glory, and then again they have a good like group of newer artists like Kenny Hoopla was here, Knuckle Puck, Magnolia Park, No Pressure was here. That's really cool. Tiger's Jaw, Turnover, a lot of like bands that I really like are just like, I don't know, it's like every band I've ever listened to was like at this festival. So this is, if there's any of them I would have gone to, it would have been this one, but wasn't able to make it work out as per usual. So and then next we have the last year's lineup. So I feel that 2023 was such a big year and they had to find a way to top it somehow. And the best way for them to do that was to ask every single band that played to play an album in full, with the exception of Fall Out Boy. And I think All American Rejects, I don't think they wanted to do that, so they left the festival, which is like unfortunate. But that's an incredible thing that they were able to get all these bands to like play their most popular album from 10, 20 years ago in its entirety. I don't know if I was in a band, if I was in one of these bands, I don't know if I would love that, you know? I think I'd be kind of bummed out if all people wanted to hear was like my old stuff, you know? Like, I think a lot of these bands still make pretty good music, so. But it was cool to see like Basement. Like Basement came out and they played Color Me in Kindness, you know? And like Basement's not very active anymore. But it's a good lineup, all things considered. I don't love this one as much as the other ones. There's not as many bands that I'm like drawn to here. I mean, I still like most of them, but yeah, it's kind of cool that they were able to get everyone to agree to do this. And I got the chance to see Neck Deep like a week before this festival, and I got VIP tickets to that show, the Neck Deep show, and they played a lot of Life's Not Out to Get You as like practice for this. So it's kind of cool that I got to see some like deep cuts from that album. And then next we have this year's, which is, I think, one of the most exciting things about this year's is Panic at the Disco. I'm not a huge Panic fan, but they're obviously huge in the scene, and they like, I don't know, or Brendan Urie announced that he was done with this project in like 2023, went on hiatus, but they are already back, which I could have guessed. I could have told you that he would be back in like a couple years, but I'm sure that if you're like a theater kid that I went to middle school with, you're probably super stoked about the show. Yeah, this one's got Blink though as the other headliner, and Avril Lavigne's here. That's cool. Mayday Parade, Taking Back Sunday, The Offspring, Story So Far. You know, lots of bands. Again, more bands that I really like. Looking at this actually though, I actually think I would switch these two. This year's not as strong as this one, and you got bands playing cool albums in full. So, yeah, I think that's my list. Still like a relatively new festival, so it's hard to like have a larger conversation about what this festival means to the scene. Maybe in like 10 years, this will be like more of a thing, you know, more than it already is. But yeah, I think this is like a pretty cool thing that happens every year. And it's surprising that they're able to make it work with such huge artists. Cause like, I don't know, Warped Tour towards its end was never bringing in this many big artists I mean, granted, that's a whole tour, but yeah, I hope one day I can make it to one of these and overcome the exhaustion that I feel at festivals. But yeah, so this was just kind of a short video, no script or anything. So thanks for coming by and listening to me ramble about a music festival I'm yet to attend. Yeah, I appreciate you. Have a good rest of your day.